Hello, and welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Unmasking Your True Self. I'm Elisa Bogarts, your guide on this journey to discovering the most genuine version of yourself. Each episode is a step towards unveiling the incredible power that lies within you as we strip away all the shoulds and shine a light on the coulds. Together, we'll explore the path of self-empowerment, self-confidence, and the courage to be unapologetically you. Thank you for being here. So let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about screwing society's expectations. I am super excited about this and how you can go from darkness to radiance. My guest today is Nelanthini Rajesan. And being a Canadian engineer and daughters of refugees, she leverages her diverse career to empower women. Beyond professional success, she champions authenticity, guiding women to break free from societal expectations and rediscover their true selves. I couldn't find a more perfect guest, which is totally in line with my podcast. Welcome, Nelanthini. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. All right, so tell us, how you got into this field of work and just why you're so passionate about it.
Of course. So to start with, I'm a daughter of Tamil refugees. So Tamil were from the island of Sri Lanka. My family fled to Canada to escape the genocide. And this genocide happened in Sri Lanka for about 26 years, 1983 to 2009.
Did it?
Yeah, it was a 26-year war.
Whoa.
And to this day, it marks 15 years of it not being identified as a genocide. So my ethnicity, Tamil ethnicity, was being targeted. So that's why my parents fled to the country, and I was born here along with my two sisters. So I grew up with parents with clear PTSD symptoms from a war, as well as growing up in a country and in a world where it wasn't recognized as a genocide either. So I grew up with the fear of connecting with my ethnicity because I felt like it was wrong, because no one else outside my home, outside my family was acknowledging it, was saying anything about it. So I grew up with being bullied in school actually by a particular boy who would bring newspaper clippings and say, "Hey, look who we killed today. Oh, look at the government, who they killed, how many Tamil people today." I grew up with that, and not one person stepped in. No friends, no teachers. So I grew up with, oh my God, like maybe my ethnicity, I shouldn't really talk about it. Maybe I'll just say I'm Canadian through and through. Canadian. People ask me where I am, Canadian. And I was so disconnected from my culture and ethnicity. And to this day, it's my biggest regret. But that's one aspect of who I am. Another aspect is I'm daughter of refugees who came literally to the country with nothing and had to build their way up. So there's this need to perform, overachieve. And I'm the eldest daughter. So there's this responsibility and burden of meeting expectations. Perfectionism. I was a perfectionist. And there's
a lot of pressure, isn't
exactly. So, growing up, it was engineer, doctor, or lawyer. That's your option. Study, go to school, get a job. That was what my life was, to perform and get these expectations, tick off the boxes on this list. Growing up, that's what I did. But I felt not fulfilled enough. I would get into engineering school, nothing. I got into a nice bougie corporate job, nothing. It was kind of like I was trying to please others around me so people can look back at me and be like, "Oh, you're doing it. You're perfect. You're great." But on the inside, I just felt like I just wasn't me. Like I wasn't happy. I felt like I had to change who I was. I would come home drained every day because I would spend how many hours of the day performing for society as opposed to being myself. And it was
definitely exhausting.
exactly. And fast forward in February 2021, I get a phone call. And in this phone call, it was my employer at the time. And he had called me and said one of our favorite coworkers had died by suicide. And this coworker was absolutely stunning, brilliant, intelligent, kind, humble, perfect. If you look at the stereotypical girl that your parents are like, "Why can't you be like her?" That was my friend. And my parents, I kid you not, did literally say to me, "Oh my God, this girl's so smart. Why can't you be like her?" So when I found this news, I was in disbelief. The next day I got a suicide letter. Reading the suicide letter, there are certain lines that started to click. But what really clicked for me was that she was telling my story back to me. And the reason why I say this is because she was saying stuff like, I don't know why I feel this way. I'm doing everything right, I'm achieving the big things. I have friends, I have family that love me, but I don't know why I feel this way. I've been living life the way that I thought was the right way, the only right way to live. And that line is critical because that is what clicked for me. Because 5 years ago, from February 2021, I was contemplating the same fate as my friend, the
Mm.
same fate. And the reason why is because I was doing everything right, but I wasn't getting that validation and approval. I was checking these boxes, but I wasn't really like, I felt like I was just performing all the time. And when I would try to speak up and show bits and pieces of my authentic self, it was met with backlash, meaning I was called selfish. I was being called inconsiderate. I was being told I was causing problems. I was called many different names. So for someone that was checking off all the right boxes and living the right way, and yet when I would speak up and try to express a thought, opinion, a preference, it wasn't met well. And I was doing everything right, but it felt like I wasn't good enough. So I kind of got to the point where I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like I'm living life the way that we're told to live, but I'm miserable. And no one seems to care about what I want and who I really am. And it was in that moment that it clicked. That was the moment, the pivotal moment in my life. All these moments I just talked about that led up, and including this big moment, is what really caused me to wake up, in all honesty. It caused me to wake up and really question, have I been performing? I was 25. I've been performing for 25 years of my life for everyone. And I don't even know who I am anymore.
Mm.
I don't even know who I ever was because my identity was strictly curated by my career, by my accomplishments, not the nitty gritty in between, not by my preferences, not by my passion, not by my loves, but by the check boxes that I've ticked in my life. And the really moment that really hit home for me was because my friend who had died, she was like my little sister. I called her my little sister. I would hold her hand as we walked across the street. I have two younger sisters as well who are also in high school and graduating elementary school. So if my little sister, who I didn't even recognize all that she was going through all this, I didn't see that. My own two little sisters in my own home, what are they going through right now? And that's
Right.
what terrified me because I went through this and my friend went through this, but only one of us is here right now. That I'm looking at this in a bigger picture. My sisters are going through it. One of them had an anxiety disorder. Another one had, issues with eating disorder. There's so many other women. Now I'm going outside of my house. How many people in my town? How many people in this province? How many people in this country? How many people in the world? And that's when it just clicked to me, like it's because of society's expectations that millions of women and children and around the world feel like they can't be themselves because they have to tick off the boxes, they have to meet certain expectations and levels, and that's what people will recognize them and people will deem them as acceptable, successful, and that's what they think will give them the fulfilled life, but it's not. And when they realize that and when they don't feel fulfilled, that is what causes so many people to spiral, to go into these dark places, to have these dark thoughts, to chase after either wrong relationships, eating disorders, drugs, lashing out, not able to regulate their emotions. Like this is a result of all of this.
Right. It's interesting. I was at a friend's birthday party on the weekend and I was talking to some of her friends and we were talking about, sort of the difference in generations and how very much we um, have this come from this place of fear. That fear is this huge motivational driver, very much similar to what you were talking about. I have to be good. I have to be perfect. I have to try really hard. I have to be the smartest. I have to prove myself. I have to do all these things in order to get all this external, validation. And it all is driven from this place of fear. So much so that, as you were saying, that people could in fact end their lives because of that fear or this feeling of inadequacy. And
And
so
that's
how do we go from that darkness to being more radiant?
so for me, I just say I have these three tools that I swear by. So the number one thing is meditation. And I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I don't want to sit down for half an hour." I'm not telling you to. There's so many types of meditation. And for me, the one thing that helped me was movement meditation. If you don't feel comfortable with sitting in silence or sitting through a guided meditation, that is okay. But there's also movement meditation, which for me it was walking, just going out for a walk in nature, 30
Mm,
minutes, 40 minutes, like long walks, take breaks in between. But the reason why is because when you have your body in movement, it's kind of like a baseline. Think about it like that. And then all of a sudden, these thoughts start coming up in your mind. And that's what essentially happened to me. Certain memories would come back, certain thoughts would come back, and I would be like, wait, why? Why is this coming up? Because before, when I would just engulf myself in parties, functions, trying to chase, always being in with the party and the crew and everyone, like I was just silencing myself, which I had done so for 25 years. And then finally, in this movement meditation, whether it be walking and jump rope, those are my two favorite because you get your mind and the body into like this like baseline, this rhythm. And then when you're in this rhythm, your mind is able to kind of come to front. And it's like, okay, your body's distracted. Okay, let me speak up now. And I urge you guys to listen when your mind comes up with these random memories of things that happened years ago, because there's a reason for this coming up. And for me, the memories that started to pop up were moments and people who I didn't feel authentic around, who made me feel unsafe, who made me feel like I couldn't be myself, and people who made me question my self-worth.
Yeah, I have the exact same thing. Even now, I still have these memories pop up. So interesting.
Yeah, and that's your think about it, it's like your voice trying to speak up, but we never gave a chance to listen, or we push it aside and scroll on social media.
Mhm.
So it's like
Mhm.
imagine like this little like people say inner child or soul, you shoved it into a dark cave and it's trying to speak up, but you keep shoving it back in. We need to let our inner voice, our inner soul, our child to slowly come back out. And by that's why I personally love meditation because it's telling your inner voice, your soul, who you truly are, that hey, come out slowly, come out, come out. Like it takes time. It takes quite a bit of time and you have to have patience. But the next step is once I had all these thoughts and stuff and I start to get these epiphanies, I'm like, I gotta put this somewhere. That led me to my next tool, which is journaling. And
Nice.
journaling is the huge thing for me because you have so many thoughts in your mind. And think about it as extracting your thoughts and putting it on paper and just looking at it. And that's why I love journaling because I would ask questions, I would reflect on memories that came up, and then I would look back and be like, wait, that maybe it's because of the reason why I feel this way is because of this event or this person, or oh, I realize that when I'm thinking about this, I get very anxious and nervous, but when I think about doing this activity instead, I'm so happy. So I started documenting this. And I urge you to, I know a lot of people are scared, or journal, diary, whatever you want to call it. I urge you to keep it. But if you feel a little bit angsty in the beginning, a lot of people will write and then burn it right away if they feel nervous about other people seeing it. But I highly recommend to keep your journals. I have currently 3 journals for the past couple of years that I love to keep because I like to go through my journals. And the reason why is because you can see your growth. A lot of the time, we only associate growth with our achievements, but not with our emotional resilience that we've developed, our mental health growth, our, the change in how we, see the world and see ourselves. Like that for me is more important for people to document and reflect on, which is why journaling is so important. And I do have a guide that I love to give out to people where it guides you through. It has 3 critical questions it asks you, along with like key questions you can ask yourself, because a lot of people feel overwhelmed with journaling. They don't know where to start, but I have this guide where it's literally tells you what to go through in the beginning and it helps guide you through that. And I urge people to go through this over and over again, whether it be once a week, every day, once a month. I currently do it twice a month. Often I increase it depending on how my month is going. If it's a very hectic month, I feel anxious, things have been a little bit more rough for me, I tend to do it more often. But generally say if you feel anxious, if you feel like you don't feel, you feel like your heart's racing, you feel like you're just trying to run around, get things done, I would say that's the best time to journal because that causes you to pull yourself down, look at your thoughts, and kind of dissect what's really going on. What's the deeper thing?
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited you're gonna share that with us. I think that's so incredibly helpful to have something to guide you.
Yeah, I love it. It's amazing. And the last thing that I love is called temperature checks. And so meditation and journaling, you have to schedule time for those, right? You have to set aside time to do those. But this is life. The world is always going to be moving. So what do you do when you're in a meeting? What do you do when you're at a family function? What do you do when you're in a situation where you can't just go for a walk, where you can't just sit down and journal? And that's my temperature checks. And this is essentially just a body scan. And I've done this in meetings. I've done this in meetings where people are yelling at each other and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so anxious. Okay, let me just like, no one's paying attention. Everyone's more focused on themselves. Let me just like sink into my body and like feel what's going on. And what I mean by that is this is a quick, it can be a 60-second scan or less, depending on how fast you figure out what's going on with you. For me, I've gone faster because I've learned to connect with my body more because I do temperature checks so often. So what I mean by a temperature check is literally start from your head all the way down to your feet and literally think, okay, do I feel tight anywhere? Is my chest tight? Is my throat tight? Are my shoulders tense? Are my shoulders raised? Why is my heart racing? Why are my hands shaking? Like, why am I tapping my foot like crazy? These are key things that you can look out for because this is your body trying to speak up and say something's wrong. So I don't feel good. Like, please listen to me. It's like your body screaming, but we don't listen to it. What do? We push through it. We either lash out, we drink a coffee, we take, dessert or sweet. We either, shove it down, and then at the end of the day, we wonder why we're so drained. We wonder why
Mm.
we're so tired. We wonder why we broke down the moment that we sit in our car. It's because you didn't listen to your body when it tried to speak up.
Yeah, I love that. I am in this program right now called Appetite, and it's all about these kind of these hidden hungers that women have about, and it's very in line with what you're saying that we're not like allowed to be ourselves in so many different ways or desire certain things. And I was in it, and she talks about, yeah, checking in. It's very similar to what you're doing these temperature checks. And it was like, and if you don't do it throughout the day. And she was like, sometimes, I realize at the end of the day, I didn't check in with myself. And now I want to leave my husband and drink a bottle of wine. I just thought
Oh,
that was an amazing thing. I was like, yeah, like that happens sometimes. Sometimes you get to the end of your day and it's just like, ugh, so actually doing these check-ins, doing these temperature checks and these body scans, even if it only takes 60 seconds, are really good so that you don't end your day feeling like that. And then you reach for whatever it is that gives you comfort. That could
exactly.
be not good for you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for those 3 tips. I love them. They're so good. What advice would you give someone who's wanting to be their true authentic self?
Play. I think that's the biggest thing, play. Because a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to explore and try new things and make mistakes. And that's because we have a fear of failing and we have a fear of if it's against what society deems as successful. So I urge you guys to play and discover and be okay with the cycle. And it's a cycle, not a straight line. And I think that's what I beg people to understand is people think that it's just a straight line going up to like a peak. And once you hit that peak, your life is done. But I ask you this, once you get your degree, your job, your spouse, your kids, what else do you have left? People are usually in the mid-range of 30 to 40 when this happens. So what's next? Is what I ask you. And that's why a lot of people just look at me and they say, I don't know what to do. People just work longer hours. They just continue to get promoted because they're trying to just fill their lives with something because they haven't allowed themselves to play and figure out what truly speaks to their soul and what makes them truly happy. And
Mm,
that's the critical thing. Like you go through, some people say chapters, but I love calling it rebirths. You go through so many rebirths in your life.
yes.
You change who you are, you grow and evolve. What you liked 5 years ago is not what you're gonna like today. And you have to accept that and embrace that because the sooner you embrace that, it makes life so exciting because you're gonna be like, let's try that, let's try this, let's do that. Oh my God, this is so fun. Let's do it again. Like just learn to play, have fun, and do it unapologetically because honestly, screw society's expectations because no matter what you do, someone's going to say something. No matter what you do, you're going to meet someone that is going to give you backlash or resistance. But I'm telling you now, the moment that you have someone giving you backlash or you're facing that resistance, you're doing something right. You're going against the grain. You are not living on autopilot. That's the huge thing. Take it from me, I lived on autopilot for 25 years of my life. 25 years. I was just an empty shell, just ticking off boxes for 25 years. Like take that in. And there's some people who've been doing it for much longer.
Yeah.
And that pains me because people don't allow themselves to enjoy. People don't allow themselves to go play, to embrace who they truly are unapologetically. But like essentially it's kind of like be comfortable with who you are, but the only way to get there is to listen to your mind and body and learn to play again.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. And it's like, because yeah, as you have these rebirths, it's like, oh, well, I don't know what I like now, but I know I don't want to do whatever, my last sort of life or whatever. And yeah, what is it now? And yeah, maybe one way to figure that out is to play and try new things and see what sparks you and then go with that.
Honestly, yeah. Like now what I'd say is that whenever I have a client or someone that says, I want to do this, but like my parents are gonna say this, or oh, someone's gonna say this, and I literally say, I'm like, screw what they think. Like it's gonna be your life. Like
Yep.
are they gonna come and tell you what's going on? Like, no, like screw what they think. Do what you want and tell me how happy you are later.
Oh, this is so great. Thank you so much. You shared like, well, first of all, your story was just amazing. And I resonated with so much of it. I saw myself so much in your story. And then you gave us these three great tools about meditation, the journaling, and the temper checks. And the beauty of it is that, yeah, you brought this different aspect, doing that movement meditation. I even noticed that too. I just go on a little walk around my neighborhood and I listen to music. And I notice about halfway through that I start yawning and it's like my body's like, oh, okay, we can relax. And then, yeah, like you're saying, those memories come up or thoughts come up, and it's kind of sort of freeing yourself from all those things from before. And how journaling really is an extract of your thoughts, and that to do a body scan and to do it throughout the day, constantly check in with yourself, even if it's just a few times, so that at the end of the day, you're not entirely depleted. Because when you're depleted, you're not being your authentic self, you're not your best self, and that's what we really want to strive to be, is live in an authentic world. And if you do want to, figure out who your authentic self is now, play. So where can listeners find you online?
Honestly, I this is fun fact. I'm the one and only. So even if you search my first and last name, you'll see all my socials, but I'm very active on TikTok and Instagram.
Oh,
So my
perfect.
handle is we can always send that over, but essentially that's the easiest way to find me. If you ever want to follow me on any of my socials, just Google my name and everything will pop up in front of you.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely be putting that in the show notes. And what is your final words of wisdom for our listeners?
I would say the path to self-discovery and living authentically, it's a difficult one and it can often be a lonely one, but it doesn't have to be. You have the choice to build a community and the support that you need to help you ground you during this journey. And if you need any help, if you need some points on how to start out, please reach out to me. That's all I want to do in life is just to help you live your life as authentically as possible.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.